It is officially my birthday. I have done 34 cycles around this glorious dirt ball, and it's time to open my present that I bought for myself. Yes, I know it's my birthday, and it's making a concerning rattling noise. Let's hope that's just a loose screw somewhere for some inexplicable reason, but this is the brand new Dart Zone Max Stryker 2.0. Now, I've never had a Dart Zone Max Stryker before. It was too similar to a Nexus Pro. But this time, it's completely different from the Nexus Pro X, as you can probably tell, and if you don't, well, we'll talk about it. But if you already have a Nexus Pro X, you probably don't need one of these. But if you manage to skip the Nexus Pro X, well, this might be one of the best blasters ever. I'm not even joking. I'm actually really excited for this for one really weird reason. Look at that. 200 FPS out of the box. And there's a lot of stuff in here, including 40 of the brand new Dart Zone Max Nitro Shot darts, including the inherent ability to swap between a drum and a magazine, and it comes with both. And whatever that is compared to what is obviously a plastic scar muzzle. Again, $50, local Target. If you hit like and maybe subscribe, you might find one when you go out today and look for this thing. Otherwise, it'll probably be on store shelves by the end of the month. I just happened to find one early. Thanks again for that, Brody. Look at all this stuff. Well, looks like the gang's all here. Taka, tora, pata, tato, ba, tatoba, tatoba. You got enough things to hold this? The blaster itself? And the mag just fell out, apparently. A muzzle, it doesn't do anything, but I'm sure it looks cool. A secret tool that will help us out later. Honestly, I'm not even gonna take the glasses out of the package. I have hundreds of them, the Dart Zone ones. You should use them when you're playing, because these darts could really mess up your eyes, but other than that, they're okay. Especially for them being included with the blaster. And at $50 again, so much stuff, and it kind of feels like a steal. Dart Zone is just killing it, assuming the blaster works fine. First up is the brand new Nitro Shot darts, and these are pretty good from what I've seen. I don't think they're the best darts ever, but I'm not gonna go over these too much, but the TLDR, if you haven't seen my video on the Venom Pro, and you really should watch it, I'll go into more detail, is that these are a 1 gram dart with your typical Dart Zone Max heads, but they have 3 ribbings on them instead of 2 like the original bamboo darts. Here's the thing we actually care about, the blaster itself, and what is causing that? Front of the blaster, we've got a muzzle here. It's not like a NERF compatible muzzle, but it does allow you to put this attachment on, which is just a faux suppressor looking thing. It won't do anything, but it looks cool. The other thing is, of course, the scar. And these are good because they actually increase the accuracy of your blaster using, essentially, plastic rifling. Dart goes from magazine to barrel, plunger rod goes forward, creating air pressure, dart goes out barrel, and at the very end of the barrel, you've got this muzzle. It twists the dart, and that stabilizes it in flight. It's not a perfect solution because this is the cheap option. The better option is a bearing scar, or BCAR. String Centering Auto Rifling is the acronym. And it works in 2 ways. You can just shove it in here like this, but for hobby standard blasters that use like a 16mm outer diameter barrel, it will also fit on the end of those. Really neat. Once you put it on there, you'll probably never take it off unless you get a BCAR, which conveniently they sell on their website, or the one that came with your Nexus Pro X. Not that I think it's probably smart to buy both blasters. Below that, we've got your priming grip. This is rather comfortable, and underneath of this, I'm going to assume is a Picatinny rail, because all of them have a Picatinny rail where you can add whatever foregrip you want on the end of it if this is not your thing. But one of the most important factors about these kinds of blasters is, well, how smooth they prime and how hefty that prime is. The Nexus Pro X is really smooth and nice, so what's this one like? It seems like a shorter prime, but yeah, I can prime it with one pinky.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
But maybe most importantly, slam fire. Hold down your trigger, you pump it back, same old, but when you press it forward, it automatically fires the blaster, letting you skip a step, which means that you can absolutely clear a room with it. Some people don't like that feature, I love it. At the top, we've got a big, huge, long Picatinny rail for whatever things you want. We also got 2 little rails here on the side that can, well, use your BCAR holder. Maybe it will hold this thing too? Yeah, never mind. But you can do that, which is also, you probably don't want to use that. It's cool they included it, but not useful. The front sight is incredibly loose, and you'll probably lose that too. Further back, we have our scope, which is also very, very loose on the rail. And it is just a piece of plastic with a reticle in it. No magnification, no nothing. It probably barely functions as a sight. There are no inbuilt iron sights whatsoever. I mean, you can kind of get a sight picture with it. I wonder how well that will work. Moving on back to the stock area, we've got, is this adjustable? Ooh, it is, and it's a buffer tube stock underneath of that, so you can fully pull off this stock if you don't want to use it and replace it with a buffer tube stock that fits you better. Customization is cool, and this blaster already has a lot of it. Speaking of which, moving on to the grip, well, that's an AR style grip. I assume it could work with some like AR style or maybe some AEG style grips that will fit on there. Safety button right there. You got a mag release right here, and as you can tell as I press that, this one moves, because if I pull that one, the other one moves. So if you want to do a normal reload, you can just press that in, pull that down, or if you want to do a quick reload, you can press the other one and freely drop your mag. And there are sling loops right here, and slings are pretty important, so that's pretty good to have. Put you in your home where you will live from now on. And with the mag release, as I press it, you can see that there's a little piece of plastic in there that moves out of the way. So we prime our blaster first and then use the mag release. We can pull out our mag adapter and we can pop in our drum. The drum is pretty compact and it's a 25 round drum. But the reason why this is interesting and why you would even bother isn't exactly the increased capacity, and this is one of the key differences that makes this better than the Nexus Pro X in some ways. You can rear load it. I don't really like magazines. I know that's sheer heresy, but honestly, I like scavenging or just topping up my drum as I use it. With mags, it's kind of hard to do that. If you fire 6 shots out of this, you have 6 shots left. And, well, if you want to go into another engagement, do you chance it with those last 6 shots? And refilling these things are a pain. Sure, you do them all before the match, but if you start to run out of magazines while you're in the match, yeah, these are a pain to reload. This, not so much. Yeah, if you want to top up the entire thing, it'll take a while, but you can fire off 6 shots, then just back the drum back and reload those 6 shots. You're ready to go. So the adapter is cool, but the drum is what I'm really interested in. Those things pop into place. Take our drum, pop it right in there. That's so cool. And then if you don't want to use the drum, just go like that. And it's a little bit harder, but you can't just pop that out. Pop your mag in there, and you're ready to rock. Man, I hope it's good, because so far it's actually better than Nexus Pro X in a lot of ways. Kind of load our mag like this. It's all kind of boring like, but heck, you have to do it. So that boy's loaded up, and now we want to just fire some shots. We just put our mag in there like that. You don't have to prime it first. It's a little stickier. It's not as smooth, but it is way more than smooth enough, I feel. But there's definitely something it's catching on pulling forward that makes it feel kind of like gummy. I don't know what that's about. That bounced off a blanket and then came back at me. That's how hard this thing's hitting out of the box. But of course, we have this, so let's just prime that, get rid of that, put that in. All right, and now, of course, you can load this drum from the front if you're boring, but the best part is you can very easily load it from the back. Dart Zone, I love you so much right now. High enough capacity for pretty much any engagement, but if you only fired 3 or 4 shots, well, you don't have to worry. You can easily top it up while keeping the blaster pointed at your opponent. Now, the downside of this is you have to have it primed back in order to do that. So the good thing is options. The bad things is these options seem to come at a little bit of a price. Yeah, I've got 2 shots right there that I just fired. Put that in. And you can't access every single cylinder. It looks like the shot just before the shot that's currently chambered, you can't access. The other thing is height over bore. The Nexus Pro X has like a foot. This, straight in line. So the internals are actually different than what you got with the Nexus Pro X, which is super cool. It's not just a clone. This will have features that some people want. If it doesn't excite you, that's fine, but it excites somebody like me, and if you're watching this video, you're probably cool like me, so maybe think about that. Yeah, it's comfy, and it's got a nice cheek rest. You can really get up on this thing. So that gumminess isn't there. If I put the drum in, which I do have to prime the blaster first, put that in, there's a little bit of resistance. Like enough that you can really feel it. Well, let's test it. Let's crack it open. Let's do all the usual stuff. But so far, I like it a lot. It might be, especially if we can kind of figure out what's going on in here, better than the Nexus Pro X for me. Keep in mind, I said for me. All right, first things first. I took it over to the chronograph and I got some pretty interesting numbers. It was a little bit under what I got with the Adventure Force Nexus Pro X. That could be down to the different darts though, or maybe this one's just hitting a little under because, you know, $50 blaster doesn't exactly have the highest manufacturing tolerances. But I still had that annoying rattling sound and I still had that weird kind of resistance when it was pushing a dart in, so I took the blaster apart. I confirmed there's Picatinny under the foregrip, and yes, even the main grip is just like an AR standard grip. You could put a different grip on there if you want. It also has that easy spring swap mechanism, so it is possible to tune this blaster up and down pretty effortlessly. And of course, inside it's kind of a mess. There's a lot more parts here than what we're normally used to, but overall it is pretty simple. And this confirms that it is a completely different internal system compared to the Nexus Pro X and the Aeon Pro X, which share pretty similar internals. But the only thing I was able to figure out, there could be two problems here, and it could just boil down to the fact that I have a lemon. There's an O-ring just in front of the main barrel, so the pusher pushes a dart through an O-ring to seat it into the barrel and seal behind the dart, and well, that adds a lot of friction to the system. I don't know if it's that's the problem, or if it's vacuum loading the darts. That's the other idea I had, because even doing this thing without a spring in it, the darts would kind of stick and I could get a lot of pressure, and I guess that proves that it has a really good seal inside of it, but yeah, it was not exactly pleasant. Honestly, it's not really that big of a deal, but it is a noticeable thing, and it is a point of a downgrade compared to the Nexus Pro X. And just for S&Gs, I decided to put on the Dart Zone B car on the front of it that uses bearings instead of plastic to add spin to your dart, and I got a little bit higher velocity, I think, on the highest end, but I also got a little bit lower velocity on some shots, but it does work. Speaking of B cars and scars, I took it over the range to test the accuracy, and well, with the included sights, it's not exactly super awesome, but it is completely usable. It didn't take long for me to want to just rip off those sights though and put on my own optic, and it's not like I sighted in this optic or anything, but I ran the blaster once just to get a feel of where I should hold it, and then I ran it again, and I got some pretty insane scores. That tells us that this blaster is very accurate. If somebody's hiding behind cover and you have a sight dialed in, it is entirely possible for you to hit them. The top of their head, an exposed hand, a knee, or something like that, this blaster can do it. And just for fun, I put on again the Dart Zone B car and got some insane numbers. It didn't feel that much more accurate than the included SCAR, but I got a high of 97. That is nearly a perfect score out of 10 shots. But how about the dart stability at range outside? And well, if you've never seen the distance of what these dart blasters are capable of doing, this is gonna blow your mind, because even with a flat shot, the STRYKER 2.0 hits over 100 feet easy, more like 125. And with an angle, it clears my range. The 200-foot range claims with an angle are completely substantiated. And what we're looking for here is any kind of deviation to the flight path of the dart or any kind of squirrely motions or anything like that, and there was none. The darts were completely stable in flight. So out of the box, even though it hits a little bit softer than the Nexus Pro X, it does do a commendable job, and it is completely usable, not even counting the fact that you could buy upgrade springs and stuff for it, just like with the Nexus Pro. I'm sure those springs work fine, and we'll test that in a coming video and get even more performance out of this thing. With all that said and done, what is the STRYKER 2.0 and why should you consider picking one up? Well, it is a complete side grade to the Nexus Pro X. There are things it does better, there are unique things it does, but there's also things it does slightly worse on. Noticeably, the worst thing, in my opinion, is gonna be that weird kind of slop I have on my Prime. If there are comments down below where people don't have that problem, well then this thing's a perfect 10 out of 10. There's absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. But it just doesn't feel very good when pushing the dart into the breech. It just sticks and it's weird and I just don't like it. The Nexus Pro X has none of that. It is butter smooth. And to be fair, priming this guy back, which is the most important priming action because that's where you're cocking the spring back if you have the most resistance, is fine. But the reason why this thing does have some advantages over the Nexus Pro X is the fact that, well, you don't have that ridiculous height over bore. Your barrel is right there. It's just barely below your sight line. That is perfect. And that's a big deal because with the Nexus Pro X, your barrel is like a ways below your actual sight line, and that could be really annoying to aim with. But you can also use the drum, and the drum has the added ability to have a higher capacity before you have to reload, and you can rear load, reload on the fly. And to me, that's my preferred method, and the fact that you can do both and switch between both means this thing has far more utility. If you don't care and you don't mind, you already have a Nexus Pro X, you aren't missing anything. Really, the only other thing that does what this does is the Tomcat, which has way less customization on it, was far more expensive at $72 and is a little bit harder to get now. And even then, rear loading that drum because of the double stacked weirdness is, well, double stacked weirdness. I find this a lot faster and easier to use at the cost of half the capacity. So the upgrades here are all worth it over the Tomcat in my opinion, and then compared to the Nexus Pro X, it's kind of just down to what you like. But I can't believe Dart Zone is doing this stuff because first we get one of the best blasters that ever hit store shelves. Now we're getting a really good side grade option in an ecosystem that's already way too overpopulated, both at amazing prices. And if you just go drop a Benjamin right now at Target, you get a completely functional loadout. And that, I really hope, would be Dart Zone's answer to like a Christmas special or something like that. Throw this, give this a sling, maybe add a mag holder onto said sling, give this a holster, maybe mag holders for this. I honestly don't even think you'd want to use mags if you're using this setup, but we'll talk about that in a coming video because this loadout is coming up next. I know they stumble a little bit, but Dart Zone is so freaking back. It's gonna be really hard for anything to top these blasters this year. And I already said that with the Nexus Pro X. That was pretty much unbeatable right there, and it's still in fierce competition with the STRYKER 2.0. And that doesn't even talk about some of the other things that are coming out that hit harder but might not have the same kind of customization and stuff. Another kind of side grade, if you will. And that's the coolest thing about competition, because at the end of the day, we, the consumer, all win. Dart Zone didn't pay me for any of this. I had to go spend $100-something at Target. Actually, my bill was more like $300 because I had to buy all the new blasters. And I'm still out here singing their praises because this is some good stuff. Maybe the best birthday ever, other than the fact that I spent all of it sitting in this absolute sweltering studio filming and editing all day. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. Happy birthday to me!